Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, join me, Rob McConnell, as together we'll investigate the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology here on the X-Zone Radio TV show on XZBN and the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV. Since 1990, the X-Zone Radio TV show has been the place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. Together, we'll investigate UFOs, aliens, ghosts, Bigfoot, psychic phenomena, lake monsters, conspiracy theories, government cover-ups, the truth embargo, alien abductions, ESP, haunted locations from around the world, and so much more. With over 28 years of broadcasting and more than 4,500 individual guests, the X-Zone is truly a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality, as evidenced by the credibility, integrity, and professionalism of the guests that we bring to our international audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Welcome to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, where in a single moment you can recognize your brilliance and change your life. This is a transformational hour that covers an array of topics that demonstrate how individuals use their native talents, as shown in their name, to look at the ordinary in extraordinary ways. Now, Albert Einstein once said that everybody's a genius. Why would one of the smartest people on the planet declare that everyone is a genius unless he knew that to be true? I'm your host, Sharon Lynn Wyeth, creator of Namology Science and author of Know the Name, Know the Person. And in each weekly show, you hear the fascinating ways that other people have discovered the genius in themselves and what they were able to accomplish. At the end of tonight's show, you'll be able to hear clues on how you can recognize your own innate genius. So, how does someone express their creative talents? And how does someone share those gifts with others in such a way that everybody benefits? Our expert tonight is Phil Bolsta, who has developed his genius in the area of writing inspiring, thoughtful, spiritual books. Now, normally, I give you my guest bio here, but what is important is not what Phil has done in the past, but the incredible material he's put together in his books. His second book, In God's Eyes, took 8 years of research and 7 years to write. His second book is the first book of his that I became familiar with, and only once previously have I felt so inspired to purchase multiple copies of a book and share it with everybody I knew. The first time I did that was when I purchased 10 copies of Bruce Lipton's first book, The Biology of Belief. That was over 10 years ago now, and I couldn't wait to share his remarkable book and I still find it a great book. But then I met Phil, and I heard about the book he was writing that hadn't yet come out. And when it came out, I purchased a copy simply because I wanted to support my fellow author. But I was the fortunate one here. I was so impressed and inspired that I ordered 25 of his books and sent them out to friends and family. Every single person who received his book raved about it and decided that his book was their new best friend. That they loved this book and how wonderful I was for sharing it. Now, isn't that a great gift? Now, that's the kind of reaction ones want. But a few years back, they got their books, and I'm going to tell you that my friends are still raving about Phil's book. So let's welcome Phil Bolsta to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You radio show. Hello, Phil.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you so much. I should mention that the title is Through God's Eyes so people can find it easier.
Oh, good. Just correct me because over the years, I forget even though I'm in that book all the time.
I know. That's very common.
You know, it's interesting because I just got through giving a seminar this past weekend on Know the Name, Know the Spirit about the soul's purpose. And at the end, I was saying, these are the good books to read if you want to read a spiritual book. And then I brought out your book and I said, guess what, guys? This is the book y'all should get.
I
And
sure
I had them
appreciate
go
that.
online to Amazon and get it right there in front because it is the most remarkable book. I just love it. You did such an incredible job.
Thank you so much. I mean, I was hoping to hear something even remotely approaching that when I was working on it. And to hear you say that and to get that kind of reaction is very rewarding because that's why I wrote it.
How did you discover your gifts? I mean, what compelled you to spend 8 years of research and 7 years of writing it? That's 15 years. I mean, I took 15 years to develop namology science. I know what that's like. That's like forever. What compelled you?
Well, when I first became interested in spirituality, I was reading a lot of books and I wanted to find one book that laid out all the spiritual principles I was learning about in a logical, organized, and engaging way. And I assumed there had to be at least one book that explained how all of these principles interact, how to weave them together into a cohesive worldview, and how to practically apply all that spiritual wisdom in daily life. And I couldn't find that book. So I remember thinking very clearly at the time, I thought, well, I guess I have to write it myself someday. But I knew I was nowhere ready. I wasn't wise enough. I wasn't well read enough. But I was just determined from that moment on that all that knowledge and all that wisdom should be gathered together in one easy to follow book so others wouldn't have to go on a giant spiritual scavenger hunt and piece it all together.
So, Through God's Eyes is a pretty bold title. How did you come up with that title? And tell us, isn't that kind of presumptuous that any of us could actually see things as the divine does?
I'm sorry, my Skype just cut out for a second. What was the question?
Through God's Eyes is really a bold title. So,
Uh-huh.
how did you come up with that title? Because I'm wondering if any of us could actually see things as the divine does, and yet that's such a perfect title for your book.
Oh, I got the title in 1998. I went to a workshop, and this was just a year after I knew I was going to write it. I went to a workshop from Dr. Ibrahim Jaffe. He's the founder of the University of Spiritual Healing and Sufism. And he shared a life-changing story with us. There were about 16, 17 students in the weekend seminar. And what he said was that after watching a TV nature program in which a lion savagely ripped apart a gazelle, he had been distraught and retreating into meditation because he's clairvoyant. He implored God, how could you allow such carnage and tragedy to exist? And he told us that the response he received humbled him and restored his faith in divine intelligence. And I'll read this. It's from the book. He said, quote, I felt and saw through inner revelation how this incident was experienced from a higher level as pure love, and that it was beautiful beyond description. You see, Abraham explained that this world may appear cruel and harsh to our unenlightened eyes, but even the brutality inherent in the animal kingdom has meaning, purpose, and a stark beauty all its own. And in fact, looking through God's eyes, we see that simply by living our lives. We all serve each other in ways both simple and profound. And from that day on, I challenged myself to see the world through God's eyes to the extent that I could, of course. That's an important point. So that I too could witness every moment unfolding with beauty and love and perfection. And I say that's an important point because so many people have said, oh, it's so arrogant for someone to assume they can see through God's eyes. And it's just the opposite. It's the path to humility. By challenging yourself to look through God's eyes, again, to the extent that you can, you'll gain a broader, big picture perspective, move from self-absorption to self-awareness, and be humbled and awed by the beauty and magnificence of life.
So, have you gotten any feedback from people in cultures that don't use the word God, like Allah? Are they turned off by the title, or do they just go past it?
Yes, but in the reader's guide, I address that at the start of the book because I note that I use the word God throughout for the sake of, it's convenience and consistency, and fully recognizing, of course, that, as you said, Sharon, there are probably as many interpretations of God as there are people reading the book. Many people view God as the source of all existence, many others as perhaps existence itself. But whether readers view God as a being, a universal intelligence, a force, or any other type, form or formless entity, I just trust that they'll substitute the name or term or reference for God that they're most comfortable with each time they come across the word.
Well, I was interested on why you picked the word God. Well, when there's that book out that says there's the 72 names of God, and yet I noticed in my own book, in my subtitle, I used the word God because it only had 3 letters and it fit better.
Well, it certainly does, yeah, and it just feels natural to me. Now, to someone else, I see a lot of people write God G-D because they don't want to say the name of God or even spell it. If that works for them, that's fine, but the word God works for me, and I just trust that others will substitute whatever works for them.
Well, this is the part of the show where we get to do your name analysis, or just a tiny little portion of it. So are you ready for yours?
You bet.
Okay, Phil, in your name it says that you do not look at the world like everybody else. You have a very unique perspective. And so that could cause you to feel like sometimes you don't fit in, or what am I doing here? Because you're not like others. It says that you are very inclusive of other people, that a lot of your time is spent with family or people that consider family, and you love to include them along with everybody else because you don't want anybody to feel left out. On the other hand, you also like to be included. Your name also indicates that the older you get, the better your life gets, because you stacked it so that you just keep progressing and get more self-confident, and it just gets better as you get older. Your name also indicates that you bring to you people that can be quite stubborn, so you had to be careful not to pick that up as a child, but also that were very likable, but knew themselves well enough that they weren't going to change who they were and able to get liked, and that you always had some sense of self. Your name also indicates that your parents kind of nurtured you incredibly well, but also really pushed you because they wanted you to become competitive. So we need to take a break. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is heard on xzbn.net and X Zone Broadcast Network, and on knowthename.com. Now, after the break, we'll find out how Phil Bolsta talks spiritual leaders into being interviewed for his first book. Phil's website is godseyesbook.com. Stay tuned.
It's hard to listen to the news without realizing we're living in volatile, unprecedented times. Yet never has there been such an opportunity to transform the human condition. As old structures fail, where can we find the guidance to co-create a better way? Find Your Path Home is an ever-evolving, leading-edge information, education, and healing resource center designed to support and guide you on your path to unity and enlightenment. Based on sound principles employed by shamans worldwide, we provide techniques that can support you through the current transitions, offering online shamanic classes, international long-distance shamanic healing sessions, complimentary Mission Evolution radio episodes and Stairway to Heaven TV vignettes, seminars, retreats, and much more. All of this can be found on findyourpathhome.com.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Our guest today is Phil Bolsta, whose website is godseyesbook.com. Now, you can also write to him at godseyes@me.com. There's no apostrophe in God's Eyes, just to make it easy, at me.com. Okay, Phil, I'm sorry I didn't give you enough time to respond to your name reading, but I hope it felt accurate.
Yeah, I'd say everything was accurate except my parents didn't push me, although I always was competitive with myself, just wanting to get better all the time and keep on improving. So I guess that is accurate. And,
Okay.
and may I say, you said the email address, godseyes@me.com, but I want to turn the tables on you a bit because I have interviewed you. And if somebody wants to email me, I will send them to the link to your interview that we did together.
Well, thank you. I have published that link to most people. They can go on my website and find it too, which makes it nice. Yeah, that was a great interview. I really appreciated being on your show.
That was fun.
So give us some of your background, Phil. How did your pursuit of spirituality start, and how did you not limit yourself by religion so that you could continue to explore all the different facets and areas of what you're bringing into through God's eyes?
Well, I was really, I'd say go back in high school. I had a lot of friends, popular, kind of the life of the party. And then I got in my 20s and just got kind of stagnant. You know, I had a family and an office job. And I found out that, you know, I really didn't have much to say. And that bothered me. I thought, what happened? So I started reading both for intellectual and spiritual purposes, those kinds of books. I just started getting into, for example, Shirley MacLaine's Out on a Limb, Ruth Montgomery books, and then Wayne Dyer. And one thing led to another. And everything just kind of fell into place and fit together. And it took a number of years to get to that point. But I was excited about what I was learning, and I wanted to share that wisdom with others. And I figured that inspiring stories from well-known people would be more likely to be read and have a greater impact than just me writing about abstract principles. And frankly, I just wanted to connect with the authors and speakers I admired, and writing a book was a good excuse to do that. So I started interviewing them and working with them to edit their stories, and that just led to my first book, 60 Seconds, One Moment Changes Everything.
Well, that's a perfect lead-in, because my next question for you was about your first book, 60secondsbook.com, for people that are interested. In that book, when you interviewed all the leaders in the spiritual field, most of the people interviewed are so well known that getting an audience of them we would think of would be incredibly challenging. And yet you did it. So how did you get so many of these great people? I mean, what did you say or do to people like Deepak Chopra and Carolyn Mace so that they would agree to be interviewed?
Well, I started with the people I had previously established some sort of relationship with. For instance, I had interviewed Wayne Dyer for an article, a kind of a Q&A in a free Minneapolis spiritual newspaper. That's where I live. And I had met Larry Dossey at a seminar. Through a friend of a friend, I met Carolyn Mace, who was speaking, and I started corresponding with her about an article about someone who was a big fan of hers. And if you have time, I could tell you a hilarious story about how I got to know Bernie Siegel, who wrote Love, Medicine, and Miracles.
Oh, we'd love to hear this. Go ahead.
So I had never published anything before, and my daughter was 3 years old, and one day the thought just terrified me, and I'm sure all parents can relate to this. If something happened to her mom and me, she would never know how much we loved and adored her, and it was an awful feeling. And so I wrote a song lyric called Our Daughter's Eyes. And after I read Bernie's book, Love, Medicine, and Miracles, I sent it to him just on a whim. And he wrote back and said he was really touched by it. He couldn't read it without crying, and he'd like to include it in his next book, Peace, Love, and Healing. So I sent back the release form, and I went to the mall near us and went into Walden Books a few months later. Every week or so, I would check to see if Peace, Love, and Healing was out, because I was excited. I hadn't ever had anything published before. And finally, one day, there it was on the display table, and I was so excited, and I picked up the book, and I went through page by page until I found it on page 250, and I thought, oh, great, this is great. And then I saw how he introduced me, and I froze, and I thought, oh, my God, my wife is going to kill me. He said, Phil Bolsta, whose wife died 6 years ago, because in the song lyric, the wife dies. And she had said at the time, you better tell Bernie that I'm not really dead. I said, oh, he'll never think that. But he did, and he put it in print. And I did not enjoy going home and telling her that was what he wrote. I just had a stomach ache for about an hour. And later on, he did come to Minneapolis again, and we went to a seminar of his, and I brought her up and say, see, I said, she's not dead. And now she jokes about, oh, that's the book I died in. But that's how I got to know Bernie. And what happened, as I said, I began with my favorite authors and speakers in that area. And once I got to go ahead to write the book, I just branched out into entertainment, sports, business, science, music, every other field I could think of. I just wanted to talk to anyone of prominence. And I started by doing a lot of brainstorming, trying to think of people I'd like to talk to who would have something meaningful to say. And I kept my antenna up. Whenever I read an insightful article by a prominent person or about a prominent person in magazines or online, or heard someone interesting on a radio or TV show, I added their name to my wish list. And what happened was, once I had written up their stories, I attached their stories as samples to the introductory emails I sent to people who I didn't have a connection with. And those initial stories gave me the credibility I needed to open more doors. And the more doors I opened, the more opportunities I had to open even more doors. Because people could say, I don't know who this guy is, but I can see he interviewed my peers. It's well written. They're good stories. So sure, I'll talk to him.
That's a great idea for anybody else who's interested in doing that. Now, you have a blog also, don't you? By the way, though, before I go into your blog, I love that story because that's like, your wife, you could have said, this is my resurrected wife.
Yeah, pretty much. Absolutely.
I love that. So you've got a blog. and it's Bolsta blog. It's Bolsta blog.com, where you keep giving out spiritual updates, and then you're writing for the Shift Network. How do you manage to do that? And why do you keep adding to so much to what you've already done? What motivates you?
Well, it is bolstablog.com. You can also go philbolsta.com. I haven't updated the blog in a while, but there is a wealth of information and inspiring content on there. And if you look on the right sidebar at all the indexes, you can see all the different subjects, and they're all laid out. And there's been well over 2 million views on the blog, and it's just really rewarding to touch people and to connect with people in that way. I've made a lot of friends from people reading the blog and leaving comments and going back and forth. I work for the Shift Network. That's a remarkable company doing remarkable work in the world, and a lot of great people, and it's a perfect fit for me because it's all about raising your consciousness and transformational courses online, and lots of spirituality and all sorts of things like that. And I look over all the emails that go out and the campaigns and the sales pages and kind of the final eye on all that to make sure everything is well done and has integrity. And I just love doing that. It's a lot of left brain and right brain work, which I like both of. And I just also am a member of Self-Realization Fellowship. And I've built my email list of members to over 3,500 around the world. And I communicate with many of them all the time. And I share a lot of content and information I think people would like. And it's well received and appreciated. And when I know something or hear something or read something that really touches me, my first thought is I want to share this with people who will appreciate it like I do. And that leads to a lot of building of relationships, developing existing relationships. And every time I make a contact with someone through email or whatever, every contact deepens a relationship, and that's what life is, relationships.
And we need to take another break. This show's being heard on xzbn.net and X Zone Broadcast Network and knowthename.com. And when we come back, we'll see how Phil has assisted other people. His website is godseyesbooks.com, and stay tuned.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, After the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Our guest tonight is Phil Bolsta, whose website is godseyesbook.com. Now, there's no apostrophes in there, but everything's plural, godseyesbook.com. Now, before the break, you mentioned Self-Realization Fellowship that you got involved with, and just so that everybody's aware of what that is, isn't that from Paramahansa Yogananda's work?
Yes, he wrote Autobiography of a Yogi and founded SRF in 1920. And I live in Encinitas, California, which is half an hour north of San Diego, which is pretty much the epicenter of Self-Realization Fellowship. It's where he lived part-time besides Los Angeles, and his ashram and hermitage are here, and many, many SRF devotees here as well. So it's a thriving community.
Yes. Well, I was going to say my very best friend from high school always went to Self-Realization Fellowship, so we were always sharing ideas. Now, Phil, you are so accessible to so many people. It's just amazing how many people you're able to communicate with and build relationships with. And so people can write to you still at godseyesatme.com and order your book through the website godseyes.amazon.com. Is that still all current?
Yes, godseyes.amazon.com. You can order it directly, or if you want to go find out more about the book first, godseyesbook.com.
Okay. So why did Through God's Eyes take so long to research and to write? I was just wondering, because it took 8 years and then 7 to write. And why did you stay with it for so long? I mean, what was the motivation behind it?
Well, I think if you talk to anyone who has a calling, as if somebody tapped you on the shoulder and said, hey, this is your assignment. And if you ignore that tap, it's going to get firmer the next time. And excuse me, this is what you're supposed to do. And that's what it felt like. I just felt like it was an assignment that I needed to do for my life's work. And I knew I was nowhere ready yet. You know, I wasn't wise enough, as I said earlier, or experienced enough. But even though I didn't know exactly what the book would end up looking like when I first realized, okay, this is what I need to do with my life, I did recognize the content I wanted in it, the concepts and quotes that I knew would be included in it. So I just started collecting those. So I had 2 Word files, one of quotes and one of concepts. And why did it take so long? Well, I had to work to support myself. I had, spend time with my daughter and just life. And over the years, as the collection kind of grew and multiplied, it was a little intimidating. And finally, I took a deep breath after 8 years and sat down. And I remember it was after Thanksgiving in 2005. I just sat down and said, okay, let's get started. And over the next 7 years, there are big chunks of that where, again, I was busy with work and I didn't devote much time to it, but I did have periods where I did as much as I could. And then the last few years, I felt a sense of urgency because I thought, if something happens to me and this book isn't out there, that is inexcusable. So I really started putting more energy and every waking thought into it, which didn't help my financial situation, but it was just an urgency, as I said. And so that's what I did. And I thought that when I started, it would have about 12 chapters and be maybe 18,000 words total. And after I later ended up with 18 chapters and about 30,000 words, I thought, okay, I guess I'm done. And then I realized, no, I'm not. And what's interesting is every chapter of the 18 chapters they all grew at the same rate. I didn't have to look, okay, I got to find some content for this chapter. They all organically grew at the same rate. They all started, I got to 1,000 words a chapter, then 2,000, then 3,000, and and now they're all over 5,000 words a chapter. And I thought I was done like 3 times before, and I just thought, when I'm done, I'm going to know it. And after that 7 years, I thought, okay, this is done. It's good to go.
Now, when I first got your book, it looked like just a book of quotes, but it's so much more than that as you use the quotes to support your philosophy. Talk to us about how you decided to lay out your book in those 18 chapters and why that division and what you did at the end of every chapter.
Well, what I did when I sat down and thought, okay, let's get started, I just took my 2 Microsoft Word docs and looked through the concepts and just wrote on the computer, here's all the chapter headings that I can think of right now. And I just started sorting that content by chapter. And then I thought, oh, okay, here's another chapter I didn't think of, but here's some content that needs to go in that. And I just started really organizing it by sorting all the material I had collected and wound up with the 18 chapters that way. And from the moment I knew I was going to write the book, I envisioned what the format was going to be. I alternate my own commentary every paragraph with inspirational quotes throughout the book. And the commentary and quotes support, build upon, and flow into each other in a seamless way. So a quote may expand on the concept that precedes it, or it may introduce the brief commentary that follows. And quotes by others not only add depth and subtlety to important ideas, they lend credibility because they illustrate that the wisdom in the pages is not something I just conjured up. Every concept in the book has been validated by great minds through the ages. And that's what happens a lot is people say, oh, it's a book of quotes. I say, no, give it half an hour, start reading, and then they go, oh, I see. Because it hasn't been done before, so people don't understand the format until they start reading it.
So when you started putting in quotes, okay, did you find that you had favorite authors or philosophers that you wanted to use repeatedly? And did you find that when you were reading, there were any that you just went, this one just doesn't fit in with the rest and I got to throw it out?
Yes and no. I didn't go searching for particular authors, although I did, for example, Paramahansa Yogananda. I read a lot of his work, so I had a lot of his quotes. I love Khalil Gibran, who wrote The Prophet. And I read a lot of Richard Bach, who wrote Jonathan Living Seagull and so many other books, and they all have a number of great quotes. But what I did a lot of, I just got massive amounts of quote books, big, thick quote books, and I went through page by page. So if something jumped out at me, I thought, okay, that goes in. It didn't matter to me who the author was. It was just the thought and the content of the quote itself. So there's nobody that I really thought, oh, I can't use him or her. I just, it grew organically out of that research of just looking for quotes that would fit.
Now, I would love to introduce you to J.J. Dewey. It's Joseph John Dewey, Dewey, and his first book is free online. It's at freeread.com because you get to read it for free. And he has some wonderful quotes and some wonderful, I read his stuff and I think about you and your quotes and what you're doing. So I would love to introduce him to you.
Sure, thank you.
So do you have favorite quotes throughout your book that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, I do. Actually, just trying to...
Because I think we have time for one or two before our next break and then some afterwards.
Okay. Let me find. So one is Richard Bach. You don't have to fight to live as you wish. Live as you wish and pay whatever price is required.
That's interesting.
That really speaks to how I like to live my life. I just know what I need to do, so I do it. And whatever the consequences are, that's fine.
Okay, another quote. I mean, I look at one, I was listening to Sherry Edwards, who got Scientist of the Year in 2001, and her with a bioacoustic feedback, and I've had her on the show quite a bit. And she said tonight she was doing a relationship thing for anybody who wanted to call in and get their name out analyzed on what kind of a partner they were looking for, what their voice would say. And one of the things she said tonight that I thought was very interesting is that the person who cares the least in the relationship is actually the one in charge of the relationship.
Right, absolutely. And I love the quote by Carolyn Mace. I quote this a lot. When we look ahead, we see only chaos. When we look behind, we see only order.
Oh, now that's cool. And we need to take our last break. Stay tuned to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You on xzbn.net and X Zone Broadcast Network and knowthename.com. Now, after the break, we're going to find out what Phil Bolsta has in his name that has assisted him that you just might have in your name as well. Stay tuned.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
SIMULTV.com.
SIMULTV.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
SIMULTV.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. SIMULTV.com.
Welcome back. I'm Sharon Lynn Wyeth, and you're listening to Know the Name, Know the Genius in You, which is being heard on xzbn.net and knowthename.com. Now, our guest tonight is Phil Bolsta, whose website is godseyesbook.com. Again, no apostrophe, godseyesbook.com. Now, Phil's taken his skills to a level where he's able to assist others in considering the importance of prayer, reflection, and spiritual inquiry. Now, right before the break, you gave us a Carolyn Mace quote. So why do you love that one so much? And then do you have just one more quote for us?
When we look ahead, we see only chaos is because we think when something happens we don't like, that it's the worst thing ever, and we wish it didn't happen, and yet we look back and see the perfect order of it years later and think, oh, I understand now. I needed to go through that to get to where I am. And another quote that I love is by C.W. Ledbetter. It's one of the commonest of mistakes to consider that the limit of our power of perception is also the limit of all there is to perceive.
Oh, now that one takes a while to think about.
Yeah, but it's so powerful because so many people think, especially, hey, if I can't see it, if I can't feel it, I don't believe in it. But that's the limit of what you can perceive. It's not the limit of all there is to perceive.
Well, and that's similar to when you're reading the book of Genesis, when it says God created the world in 7 days. And I think we consider a day 24 hours, but how do we know how long one of God's days are? Because he's not limited by what we're limited by.
And that's the whole foundation of biblical interpretation is literal versus symbolic interpretation. And that's 100 shows by itself.
Yes. So why did you offer 12 self-reflection questions at the end of every chapter?
Well, the questions at the end of every chapter, I just wanted people to do some self-exploration, build self-awareness and heighten their appreciation and enjoyment of life. And really, the way to do that is when you read a chapter, you think, okay, there's a lot of profound things in there, but when you ask questions, it makes you go to a deeper level to answer them. And the answers to the questions will be uniquely their own. The answers that are right for them may not be right for anyone else. In fact, they might be right for them for only a short while.
Excuse me. Yes, because as their understanding grows, then that answer may also change.
Right.
So, and why did you decide to include a bonus chapter on affirmations?
Well, affirmations have helped me tremendously. When I started using them, I thought, okay, well, I'll say these once a day and see if anything happens. And I realized, I have to do a little more than that. So every morning and every night I did a couple pages of affirmations and sometimes throughout the day. And after about 6 weeks, things changed. You think more positively. And I definitely noticed that difference. And it really accelerated my own spiritual growth. I still use them. And today, no matter where I am, what I'm doing, they keep me centered, grounded, and connected to loving energy of source. And if affirmations help me, I know they can help others get to where they want to go. So I've listed a lot of sample affirmations as guidance to help readers write their own.
I think that's fabulous. I know a tremendous amount of people that have their affirmation posted in the bathroom so that every time they're using the restroom, they're reminded to say their affirmations.
Yeah, and they're an easy and effective way to reshape the way you look at the world. You train yourself to think more positive, loving thoughts, and you will live a more positive, loving life.
Phil, in Carolyn Mace's introduction to your book, Through God's Eyes, she mentions the importance of three skills. The first being prayer, then reflection, and third, spiritual inquiry. Could you talk to us about the importance of these three areas?
Yeah. Instead of spiritual inquiry, I really call that practicing the presence of God. And I urge people in the book to align their will with divine will, and that's what I think Carolyn's doing. And the question is, how do you do that? And the short answer is three things. Purify your heart through the regular practice of spiritual affirmations, meditation, and practicing the presence of God by keeping your love for God in your thoughts as often as possible and maintaining an ongoing dialogue with God. It's really trying to live your life as one long prayer. And affirmations are a form of prayer, and it takes a great amount of discipline and devotion and time to attain that higher level of consciousness and maintain it. But the results are certainly worth it. It's to live just a loving, positive life. There's nothing better, and life gets easier and more simple when you do that.
Well, again, with J.J. Dewey, that I will write you an introduction for, he says on God's presence, he has a favorite quote of mine that he has said is, "Let the angel of the presence be in my presence, so I feel the Spirit of God is the only presence."
That is nice. And speaking of this too, what we're talking about, to me, it's logical to think that way. And people say, well, spirituality or God or faith is not logical. And I feel just the opposite. And if people email me at godseyes@me.com, I will send them a free copy of my ebook, The Logic of Living a Spiritual Life. I just felt compelled to write some more about how spirituality is a logical approach to life.
Okay, so say it again, the logic of living a spiritual life?
Yes.
Okay, I will put that in my next newsletter. So the other quote that I would love to share with you is one by Eugene Whitworth, Dr. Eugene Whitworth, who wrote 9 Faces of Christ and 5 other very spiritual books, where he was getting the universality of all the religions. And he said his favorite affirmation was, "I am the resurrection and the life of my divine plan, physically manifested here and now." And so he said when he said that as a mantra, then it always moved him in the direction of what was best, that was, written for him for this lifetime versus him following somebody else's lead or getting off path.
That is very nice. And speaking of the power of quotes and affirmations like that, I will also, if people email me, I'll send them a sample chapter. I'll send them the affirmations chapter so they can read it for themselves.
Great. I'm writing myself a note so I can make sure I put that in the next newsletter too. So, Phil, if you could change one thing about people's understanding or how they look at the world, what would that be?
I would say the standard response is try to be more loving. And that's not as easy as it sounds. But what I've done is, for example, on the side, I'm a certified massage therapist. And when I was working on people, I would just try to imagine I was working on my daughter. And then I could be very nurturing, and that came through loud and clear. And it's the same when you meet people. Think of somebody you love dearly and just look at them, look in their eyes as if they're that person and treat them like that. And it's amazing how that opens your heart and opens your life in radical, amazing, wonderful, beautiful ways. Because when you are more loving to others, they are more loving to you. There's so many people who say, oh, that person doesn't like me, nobody calls me, I'm not. Well, what are you doing about it? How do you treat people? They're not looking at their part of it. And the more loving somebody is, the more love they're going to get back, and probably 10 times as much.
So how do you define love? I mean, I've always thought it was just the honoring another person's essence and who they really are. but that's like my definition, and everybody has their own definition of love. How do you define it, Phil?
I would just define it as my goal is to be a pure instrument of the divine. And with that divine energy coming through, that is love. The world, the essence of God, the essence of this entire creation is love. That's what we're all constructed of. And when you get yourself out of the way and serve as a channel for that divine loving energy coming through your heart and into the hearts of others, man, that's a nice way to live.
So how can people reach you on the Shift Network?
Well, they could just email me at godseyes@me.com. My email at the Shift comes to that same address. So a lot of people have told me that they get emails from Shift Network and see my name and go, "Oh, is that you?" But yeah, it's they can just email me at that one email address, and I can respond from anytime, anywhere.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight, Phil. I've certainly appreciated this and all of your great work that you've done.
My pleasure, Sharon. Thank you so much. It's always a joy to talk to you.
Be prepared and surprised and pleased when you get to experience Phil Bolsta's work. Now, his website again is godseyesbook.com. Now, you can purchase his book on the website, godseyesamazon.com. And if you'd like to write to Phil, you can at godseyes@me.com. Also, his blog is just his last name, BOLSTA blog.com. Now, Phil excels at thinking outside of the box, and this is found in the letter combinations PH, just like Dr. Phil on television. And if you have that in your name, you also think outside of the box. This is Sharon Lynn Wyeth signing off.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie, natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
They are here, and they've been here for thousands of years, making their presence known in the shadows. They might be seen by a lonely motorist on a deserted road late at night, or by a frightened and confused husband in the bedroom he is sharing with his wife. But who are they? What do they want? Why are they here? Perhaps most concerning, has the government been aware of their presence all along? The new book by Ellie Marzulli, UFO Disclosure, the 70-year cover-up exposed, delves into the world of UFOs. Can full disclosure be soon? Order now and receive a free hour and 37-minute DVD on the UFO phenomenon. UFOs are real. Get both the book and the DVD, a $40 value, for only $19.99. To order your book and DVD today, go to lamarzulli.net. That's LAMARZULLI.net.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.